According to statistics, children from fatherless homes are twice as likely to drop out of school and twice as likely to go to jail. Author Kent Evans says we can break the destructive cycles that children are plagued with through mentoring. Welcome back to the Harvest Show.
Thank you very much for having me again.
Okay, Kent, I used to be a high school teacher. I was so familiar with those statistics that, you know, kids do drop out of school. If dad is MIA, if he's missing in action, they are more likely to drop out of school, to get in trouble. And how did you discover this? How did you discover the information?
You know, when you buy a red car, you all of a sudden start to see red cars all the time. It's like they just start to find you. In the last 5 years working in this ministry, Manhood Journey, I've just started to look at these statistics, and they're alarming. What you also find that I think a lot of folks would find surprising is that the USA actually leads the world in fatherlessness. Now, you would think that's maybe not intuitive because we're the most economically prosperous nation on earth, but also we lead the world in fatherlessness. Well, maybe that somehow there's a connection there. And so I've tripped across this information from places like the National Fatherhood Initiative and others, because the data is not yet encouraging and it does not yet show signs of going the other direction.
And these kids sometimes, they're twice as likely to also end up incarcerated. And I'd imagine in your ministry, are you coming across kids who have been in the system?
Yeah, in fact, we have a good friend in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, who's a prison ministry guy, and he uses our approach with the children of the men who are incarcerated. So he tells us that he's trying to break the chain from this pattern of violence and incarceration in these families. And I think the only thing that does it is mentoring, God's word, and prayer.
You talk about mentoring, and I think most guys probably suffer from a little bit of poor self-image in the fact that they probably say, what do I have to offer that somebody else would want to, what wisdom do I possibly have?
Yeah, I think a lot of guys do fall into that, Chuck. I think, which is sad, because Ralph Waldo Emerson said, every man I meet is in some way my superior, and in that I endeavor to learn. And it's a great quote, repurposed later by Dale Carnegie, but what that means is if every man is our superior, then in some way I can help other people. I must have something to offer, and all guys do. Every guy I've met has taught me something. Every single guy.
Okay, so you call them wise guys, which is the name of your project, Unlocking Hidden Wisdom from the Men Around You. So, I mean, but this is not just any man. This person you're saying needs to be a godly man.
Yeah, I have been really blessed to be surrounded by godly men. In fact, recently, I've spent time with several of them, and they tell me things about my marriage. They tell me things about how to be a parent, how to operate the ministry that I work in. And those guys, I call them the guys that help me look around corners, because they've already traveled down these streets and they're a click ahead, and they can help me see where I've not been.
In terms of reaching out to the young people, though, who are troubled, the ones who are in need, true need of mentorship right now, how does a godly man reach out to somebody that is ungodly right now, or at least in an ungodly state?
Yeah, that's a tough situation, because really, I think that it is hard to do push mentoring. It's hard to do mentoring where you say, hey, you need mentoring, and I want to come and be your mentor, and you're pushing. Pull mentoring works a lot better, where you have a protege or a young person or an old person who says, hey, I need some help. If I wanted to go into broadcast journalism, I'd come and get you guys to help me, right? Just because you've done this. And I think that the encouragement is to the young guy, to the 15-year-old, the 20-year-old, the 30-year-old. You know, if you want to figure out how to have a great marriage, you want to figure out how to get out of debt, you want to figure out these things, go find guys who've done that. And you can find them. They're not hard to find.
Okay, Kent, I want you to complete this sentence for me. Mentoring is not
telling other people what to do.
Good.
I think it's asking questions. You know, the best mentors I've had are guys who've asked me great questions. I have a friend, Dave, who every time we're at lunch and I'm frustrated about something, he always just goes, Kent, what do you want? What do you want from your boss or your wife or your kids or your ministry? And when I have to answer that question, man, great things happen in my own mind. And so I don't think mentoring is all about talking. I think mentoring is about asking and listening.
And go on.
Well, I was just going to ask, because the last time Kent was here, he kind of told the story about when you were a teenager, mentoring that you received and how it helped you. And I just wondered, there might have been some people that didn't see that show. We'll have them taken out back afterwards. But
what are they doing?
For those who might have missed that, tell that story again about.
Yeah, when I was a senior in high school, my parents went through a divorce, and I came across a really benevolent counselor who sensed my anger and frustration at that situation, and he said, Kent, you cannot become the unsomething. And I didn't know exactly what he meant. He explored further and said, you got to find guys who have what you want, have that picture of a life, and start to build the life that you want vicariously through those other men, learn what they have. And what was really interesting about that was he sent me on a trajectory that I think changed my life. I think from that day forward, I've had a very different perspective on the men around me and whether I can help them and whether they can help me.
Okay, so Kent, we're going to break now, but we want to find out, some of the qualifications that you talk about in Wise Guys. We're talking with Kent Evans. He's the author of Wise Guys. Harvest continues in a moment.